My fiancé cheated during work trip but didn't know I had my revenge already planned. Girlfriend and I are based in London and it happened on a work trip to Chicago. Then a week later she skipped my brother's wedding to sleep with Dubai guy again, as he was flying home through London when the wedding was on. In the interim few days, girlfriend had treated me with such cruel hate and vitriol, as if I had been the cheater. I was so hurt and confused. The following week, girlfriend ended things with me with no explanation. Just crying her eyes out. It all came absolutely out of nowhere. Now ex-girlfriend blamed how insecure she felt with me. I had no idea. With hindsight I realized she was rewriting our narrative to justify her actions. In truth, we'd had conversations about how things were going and now ex-girlfriend had said she was happy and wanted a future with me. This was the woman I was about to introduce to my family at the wedding. I was so in love, and it truly broke my heart. I still had no idea about Dubai guy. He lived in, funnily enough, Dubai and ex-girlfriend was preparing to move out to be with him. They'd met on a previous work trip a few years before and apparently there had been chemistry but nothing had happened. They kissed on the first night of the Chicago work trip, in front of all her coworker friends. One of her friends sent a photo of them kissing to their WhatsApp group and asked if Dubai guy, or I was the better kisser. Girlfriend made efforts to cover it up so it wouldn't get back to me. Then spent the remainder of the work trip on dates with Dubai guy. Girlfriend even sent me a pic of them together in a group. I don't know how much sex they had, but at least once. Girlfriend told me her hotel roommate was sick and leaving to fly home to her husband, true, and she moved into her female friend's room for the remainder of the trip. Infer what you will from that. Ex-girlfriend kept me around emotionally as her friend. Crying often and saying she couldn't bear hearing about me with other women. I was so confused. There were no other women, I was in love with ex-girlfriend. During that time there were moments of ex-girlfriend's hate, cruelty and aloofness to me that cut me to the bone. I genuinely thought she was somehow scared of her love and vulnerability with me. I thought ex-girlfriend just needed time and to know I was still there for her. I fully expected ex-girlfriend to get over this and us to be together. What a mug I am. 4 weeks later, and she tried very hard to sleep with me. I turned her down. I didn't want cheap sex with ex-girlfriend, I wanted her love. The next day ex-girlfriend canceled a date we had planned. I told her not to be weird because she tried to sleep with me. Ex-girlfriend screamed at me that she hadn't, she 100% had, and that she had a boyfriend. The penny dropped and I dragged it all out of her. I was in complete shock. I said that I'd never been cheated on before, and her words still haunt me. This is just the first time you know about. A couple of days later I wrote a letter to ex-girlfriend telling her I still loved her, that I would forgive her, and that she should choose me. We had planned to go to a big festival in the USA together, and I asked her to come. She chose Dubai guy. I later found out she just laughed about my letter with her friends. Flash forward another 7 weeks, Dubai guy dumped ex-girlfriend. I was in the USA with my ex-girlfriend, and I made plans to go on a date the day after I got back. Ex-girlfriend skipped the date with me because she was hungover and flying on holiday for a week in the morning. I later found out she'd had a first date the night before with her friend's brother, whose ex-girlfriend didn't see it going anywhere, but just wanted to sleep with. Despite everything that happened, ex-girlfriend was single. So maybe I can't hold this against her, but wow, it hurts so much. Ex-girlfriend gets back from holiday, and we have our first date in the process of getting back together. We spent 24 hours together until she suddenly left to go and sleep with friend's brother again. I realized there was another guy and asked ex-girlfriend not to go, not to once again choose another guy over me. Ex-girlfriend said she was sorry for hurting me, but she was going regardless. Friend's brother stood ex-girlfriend up last minute. She expressly told me and made sure I knew the only reason she didn't sleep with him was because friend's brother canceled, and it was absolutely not for me or my benefit. Just really kicking me while I was down. We still got back together. Love makes you do stupid things. Now again girlfriend in my rekindled relationship was, surprise surprise, super toxic with her insisting she'd done nothing wrong, gaslighting me and telling me to get over it all. She had no remorse and somehow twisted it to be my fault, and her the victim, for want of a better term. So much anger and hurt inside me, but I didn't want to punish her. Instead, I worked so hard to fix things, to put in boundaries to protect myself, and most of all, to forgive her. All I wanted in return was her to be sorry for her actions, and give me any assurances she wasn't going to do it all again. She couldn't or she wouldn't. With hindsight, I realized that being sorry would mean again girlfriend facing herself, and who she is, and how wrong she had been. She isn't capable of that level of self-awareness. All she could do was cry and complain that our relationship wasn't magically fixed without her making any effort at amends. I truly loved her, but was in so much emotional turmoil. I'm not proud of my actions, but after a couple of months I started sexting other women. I was traveling a lot and started using dating apps to sext women when abroad. I never met them, except once I went for a coffee date in Dubai, mostly at the encouragement of friends. I felt sick the whole time and regretted it. For the most part it was all a fantasy though, perhaps the validation of feeling desired, perhaps a form of revenge, perhaps a defense to being hurt again, with one foot out of the relationship. That was until I actually cheated back on her. While I had been in the USA, after I found out about the Dubai guy, but before Dubai guy had dumped my ex-girlfriend, I met a girl, festival girl, and we had a whirlwind romance at, funnily enough, the week-long festival that then ex-girlfriend and I had planned to attend. I found out at the end that festival girl was married, but in the process of leaving her husband. I was shocked. Before I left the USA, festival girl's husband had asked her to reconcile and try marriage counseling. Festival girl agreed and we cut off contact, and I was happy for festival girl to be happy. Flash forward 4 months. I am getting ready to fly to Colorado to ski with friends for Christmas. Festival girl has heard about this through mutual friends. Festival girl contacts me, says her divorce has just finalized and asks me to fly to Colorado via Chicago to see her. Same city again, girlfriend had cheated on me with Dubai guy. There was some poetic justice to it. I agreed. Now it gets bad. Just before I left for Chicago and Colorado, my female best friend, who lives abroad, best friend, flew back to London. Best friend had been such an emotional rock of support through all of this. I think emotions were so heightened and confused that best friend and I ended up sleeping together. I knew it would happen, so I tried to meet best friend in a public place and to invite again girlfriend too, but best friend cried and manipulated me into her coming to mine alone to drop off my Christmas present. Best friend knew what she was doing. I was so broken and devoid of self-worth at this point because of everything again girlfriend had put, and still was putting, me through, but it was still my responsibility, my fault, and me doing wrong with no excuse. I hated myself for it. I still hate myself for it. I had cheated and flew to Chicago to cheat again. I spent a weekend in Chicago with festival girl, and it felt so good to be with someone that didn't make me feel worthless. The opposite. Whatever festival girl and I had, it was really special. Nevertheless, I left Chicago and made my decision. I chose again girlfriend. I loved her. I hated myself for sleeping with best friend, but interestingly, not for sleeping with festival girl. Maybe my guilt changed my attitude and again girlfriend sensed it. Again girlfriend did not know about my cheating, but she spent the rest of the ski trip calling me to fight with me daily. It was awful. We were driven further apart than ever before. There was so much pain everywhere in our relationship. It was so toxic. Despite my awful actions, I really wanted to fix things and be with again girlfriend. I loved her, but when I returned to the UK our relationship was more dysfunctional than ever. Her communication, which was bad at the best of times, was now worse than ever. She just swung between being angry at me and giving me the silent treatment. I would have given anything to wind back time and have again girlfriend choose me and come to my brother's wedding. To come to the USA festival. That's not how life works though. I needed her to show any remorse for cheating. She wasn't capable of it. I was invited to a wedding in Sri Lanka, which was happening 8 weeks after my Chicago affair. It was a friend from the USA festival where I met Festival Girl. A month before the wedding, I decided to go. I contacted Festival Girl, who knew the groom too, and asked her if she wanted to come. She agreed. I planned to spend a few weeks in Sri Lanka before the wedding. Again, girlfriend decided she wanted to come with me to Sri Lanka, but not the wedding. She had 2 weeks of holiday between jobs. I checked the dates and they lined up. Again, girlfriend could fly out for 2 weeks, leave, then Festival Girl would fly in for 2 weeks including the wedding. I know this is getting ridiculous, but at the time I was torn between 2 women I thought I loved. With hindsight, I know it was only again girlfriend that I loved, but I couldn't get past her cheating on my own, and she wasn't pulling any of her own weight in this reconciliation, let alone any of mine. Surprisingly, the Sri Lanka trip went smoothly. I could say again girlfriend gaslit me and drove me to all of my cheating, she did, but that doesn't change the fact that my actions were wrong. I will always regret them. I should have been strong enough to walk away from again girlfriend and the toxic mess again girlfriend had created, but I loved again girlfriend too much and myself not enough. Again girlfriend suspected something. She went through my things and found a photo of Festival Girl at the Sri Lanka wedding. Again girlfriend confronted me and I confessed everything. I gave her my phone to go through my messages so that she knew everything. All out on the table. She took it for a whole evening, and used that time to post a full body photo of me, with my face fully visible, and a full on my Instagram and Facebook stories. I'm not sure how long the photo was, minutes or hours, but after some time she took it down and replaced it with one where my Johnson was cropped out. It was too late. The photo was up long enough that it was seen by hundreds, screenshotted and sent around the world. A friend of mine in another country was sent by a friend that didn't know me, who had received it from someone that also didn't know me. In our jurisdiction, this is a criminal offense of revenge stuff. In a recent criminal case, a woman posted a revenge stuff photo of her ex-boyfriend that dumped her on her own social media. The image was online for 11 minutes before she took it down, and she had 1,300 followers. The judge sentenced her to 3 months in prison, noting this was a reduced sentence because of her efforts to rehabilitate her issues. The judge went on to declare that revenge adult stuffography means prison. Other recent and similar cases in our jurisdiction have resulted in custodial sentences of 6 to 9 months. Perhaps an important factor in all this is that my ex-girlfriend and I are both lawyers. She works for a very highly rated international law firm, and I am a freelance lawyer running my own consultancy. We stayed together for a month after the revenge adult stuff. This was the start of full COVID lockdown, and I moved into her place for lockdown. She took my phone and cut me off from most of my friends. I now see the emotional misuse she inflicted in all her attempts to punish me. It was a stark contrast to the way I had treated her after her infidelity. It became too much. I left to stay with family and we separated to take emotional space, so that we could both process and deal with everything that had happened, so we could repair our relationship. A month later she had a new boyfriend. I found out because, after 2 weeks of planned no contact, she FaceTimed me from bed, exchanged pleasantries, and said, "Oh, I better take my pill before I forget so I don't get pregnant." This was just over a year ago. We have been in and out of COVID lockdown throughout, and my whole year has been turmoil with work drying up overnight, mental health and financial issues. I am back to a much better place in life. The long-term impact of the revenge adult stuff on my professional and personal lives has, however, only become apparent more recently as lockdown has lifted and life returns to normal. This is not to mention the trust issues it has given me. Now I no longer love my ex-girlfriend like I once did, and can see how truly awful all of her actions were, and how broken I was to allow them. With every friend and acquaintance I meet now that things are opening, it is the same embarrassing conversation about the revenge stuff. They have all seen it or know about it. It feels like a stain of drama that people in their 30s don't want to be associated with. And rightly so. Professionally, it is the same story. Everyone in my network has heard about the revenge adult stuff and many saw or were sent the picture. I caught up with a legal partner recently that I used to work for, and he had heard about it. The damage it has done to my professional reputation is incalculable. particularly now as I am looking to go back into private practice law. So now the point is I need advice. I have the decision now of whether or not I should prosecute ex-girlfriend for revenge adult stuff. She will face a 3 to 9 month custodial sentence, perhaps suspended, be made to sign the sex offenders register, and will almost certainly be struck off professionally with her legal career ended. I am torn on this decision. I do not want to take revenge on her, and I feel this is all too harsh a punishment. It will not reverse any of it nor change what has happened. How do I even separate the damage of the revenge adult stuff from the damage of her cheating and emotional misuse? Should I separate them? At the same time, I do want her to face some consequences for her actions. Most importantly of all, I do not want the public narrative to be, he dates crazy, dramatic girls, and these things happen. I want the public narrative to reflect the truth, that I had an awful crime perpetrated against me, and as a result the sole person responsible was convicted for the crime. My fiancée cheated with 2 guys on a single night, while I was away, so I dumped her and moved out. Greetings Reddit. I'm not one to post here, but I feel like I need to read what the community thinks of this situation, and help me take the next step of moving on. This will be a very long post because I really just want to let it out. I met her in university, she was hooking up with my roommate then, we hung out at my apartment on the weekends to drink and smoke MJ. I was attracted to her and she was too. Pretty soon, and I mean very soon, she broke up with my roommate, who treated her badly, she said, I've never asked any more. And started seeing me, basically any chance she got. It was fun, cute, honest romantic advances. She would invite me to study groups with her female friends, and they would basically check me out to see if I'm safe and good enough for her, I guess. It was cute. But anyways, one day she asked to come over at my place before going to the library, and we hit it off. There was no official proposal to being in a relationship. As far as my experience with hooking up over Tinder, plus her just leaving my roommate for me, I thought this was a fling. Important info: before this relationship came out of a toxic relationship of 6 years, and it has left me scarred ever since. To the point where the words I love you don't mean anything to me. It's just words. Out of nowhere I visited my home country for literally a week during school break, and during that meeting, I met my ex. No sex, no kissing, no touching. Just a meeting because of a mutual friend. After going back to school, pretty soon from there we were a thing. It was a given we were together. Since she lived in the dorms and I lived off campus, she hung out at my place most of the week. An overnight bag turned into a weekly bag, quickly turned into her just staying over indefinitely. LOL, I remember telling her you never asked to move in, and she got very scared and said you never objected to it. LOL, I didn't mind it, I just teased her. A year later I finished all my in-person school classes, so to save rent money, I moved to a different city, and lived with my parents, hence the long distance. During this long distance, I worked a carpool job. We would be on phone calls for hours. It was great. We would support each other emotionally. I supported her financially whenever needed. Paid tuitions, books, food, whatever she needed, she would pay most of it back to me. Money is not the issue here. About a year into the relationship, I planned a 2-month trip to my home country. During this trip I met my ex again, and we hooked up once. And during sex I called out current GF's name and not my ex's. She cries and checks my phone to see a long text from her saying I love you, and I want to be with you. I kid you not, these things happened simultaneously. My ex left my house in tears knowing she had fully lost me. And I was left devastated. I read the text from her once and got so scared I deleted it. I was so high on MJ, I replied to her saying I don't think we can do this, and if you can't stay away from me for 2 months we better break up. And I blocked her, ghosted her. I did not speak with her till I went back to school. I went back to school on a Saturday night, she was at the club. She ignored me and I ignored her too. I knew I had cheated on her, so I was guilty. I got to know that night that she had sex with 2 guys during the time we didn't speak. So I saw her sitting outside of her house. She moved off campus now. I went to her and apologized about being a douche for ghosting her. She cried and forgave me. We hooked up that night. All was good. No one found out what I had done. I did not mention knowing what she had done. I had completely blocked my ex from everywhere. Never wanted to think of her again. Finally over that toxic relationship, right? We will come back to this soon. Mind you, I've never asked to marry her or love her because I never felt worthy or able to do so. I couldn't afford rent, so I moved out to stay with a guardian. I moved to a different city to work because there were none where we lived together. I was in no way capable of taking care of her. But I still did. I never asked her to pay rent. Never asked any sort of money from her. Affection and love to me is actionable. It's in the unsaid favors and expressions one does. I thought I had mentioned this to her very clearly about how I probably won't be able to say those words. Love to me, as seen from my father, is financial responsibility. She was the best. She is the best. She will always be the best. Always treated me fairly. Never toxic. Would go to lengths to heal me. And love me. Now here's the tricky part. I ended up flunking a major class, and now I'm about to lose status for living in the country. Yes, I'm an immigrant. This beautiful woman offers to marry me ASAP just to let me stay in the country. We got married. I couldn't buy her a ring. No money. Not even a gift. Nothing. Dead broke, right? Barely breaking even with what's about to come ahead. I moved back with her and quit my job. Put all my savings into lawyers and government processing for staying in the country. Saved just enough to last months of food. She paid rent then. I guess it was payback. Everything was good. We even had a dog. Well, remember I told you we'd go back to that toxic ex? My wife went through my phone one night and God knows what she saw and read. I had never deleted anything. Because it was too much of a hassle, and I have a large subscription with Google. She confronted me about that meetup. I lied initially. She said she's read everything. So I confessed about it, and we cried. And agreed to leave it all behind, move forward. I swear I felt so light and happy to have no more secrets. I truly started falling in love with her. COVID hit now. And we were in lockdown. Once it started easing up, we moved to the city. I got a job as soon as I got decent pay. I was good at my job. And guess what? I got her a job too, at the same company, same office, just different departments. We also had a roommate who happened to be a mutual friend. Life was good. Until, enter this guy I hired into her department. He sat right across from her. And I guess they fell in love. Or he showed her how I was toxic and bad for her. But anyway, she came up to me one night and said she wants space. I didn't understand and offered to sleep in the living room. A day passed by, 2 days passed by. Subconsciously, I went to sleep in our bed and passed out. I woke up in the middle of the night to see her sleeping in the living room. She was clearly uncomfortable. I told her to go back and sleep there, and that I'm sorry I slept in the room. I asked her why she won't get in bed with me, and she said she can't. That's when it hit me that I'm losing her. Next day at work, I see her standing very close to that guy. They are laughing, giggling. He's giving her rides to work. She is going out to his house after work. And I was left devastated. I called her one day at work and asked her why she was doing this and what she is doing with that guy. She said, I am single now and I can do whatever I want. I broke so hard. Oh, my heart aches. I don't wish that over an enemy. After a few confrontations, discussions, and breakdowns, it was confirmed she's gone too far away. I remember our cat not even entering the bedroom because she would be scared of new scents. She clearly had a new scent on her. She probably hooked up that night as she came back around 3 a.m. She told me that she felt bad that I never said I loved her or showed her affection through words. She basically said that she had moved on while staying with me. I felt mentally tortured. She told me to move out of my own house. The house where I was on the lease. She said, I don't want you to see the guys I bring over. This wasn't even a month into the breakup. I felt so misused and tortured I instantly looked for a room anywhere and signed the first lease I was handed. I moved out. We still worked together. They were now a thing. Everyone at work came up to me to tell me that. I, in a leadership role, felt so broken and embarrassed that she left me for a minimum wage worker. I guess he was just better than me. And eventually they quit their jobs and left. I hated not being able to see her there. I would go up to her desk and cry after work. I took everything as punishment for my sins. My sins to her. My unfaithfulness. My messed up attitude of never expressing my love and affection in words. My cultural reservations of PDA. I regretted everything I stood for. I eventually got kicked out of the country because she filed for divorce. I'm writing this post after 11 months of the breakup and 6 months of being back in my home country. I still dream of her every night. I don't message her or bug her for anything other than the divorce, which is now finalized as well. So now there isn't a reason to talk. How do I get over this? I'm getting to the point in my life where I want to settle down. I've learned enough from past relationships on how to treat a woman, how to be honest, and how to love. I want to have kids and a house and responsibilities. Thank you for reading my post on Reddit. I will be reading all positive and negative comments. I need both. I sent my fiancée's affair proofs to her parents and told her to pack and leave cause she cheated like a 403. My story at the onset is your typical infidelity discovery. 27-year-old male, engaged for 6 months, fiancé acting distance, gone at weird times, sex infrequent/excuses. Found the texts. She'd been sleeping with a guy, married, with kids. Took pics of all of them. This douchebag was coaching my fiancé on having affairs. He's been doing it off and on for years. Like it's acceptable. And yes, it's in the texts. Here's my success story. This transpired late spring. Wedding was planned this summer. Zero hesitation, there was no way this was going to happen. I was done. 1. I work for a huge company. Position openings galore right now. Interviewed and secured a position in a place I always wanted to live. 2. Gave notice to my landlord. Fiancé lived with me. Lease entirely in my name. Filed unlawful detainer. 3. Got a new phone plan and new number. 4. Plan was to end the relationship on a Thursday. My last day in the apartment was Friday. Movers scheduled. Impeccable timing. She had a girls' weekend getaway planned that weekend. 5. Arranged to have the sheriff at my place for 4 hours, cost me $200. We can hire off-duty in my county. What transpired that Thursday? FedExed screenshots to her parents and AP's wife. Both with respectable notes. Her parents were out a lot of money having to cancel the wedding with short notice. Felt bad, not really. Turned old cell phone service off. Met with the deputy, explained the situation. Presented court documents. Dude was cool. She came home from work. Told her we were done. She needed to pack and leave. No explanation. Just that I was not ready to be married. Of course she was a mess. Deputy moved it along. Took a few hours. Tears transitioned to anger. That evening, everything was blocked. Was on the road by Friday afternoon. It's almost 3 months now. The new job, new scenery, meeting new people. Have been to NC with most everyone. Mutual friends tell me she is not doing well. The ones I keep in contact with now know the story. Her parents contacted my parents and apologized. They asked for my information, but my dad declined to share. He did tell me to call them. I may out of respect. Her sister, who I failed to block, messaged me on FB. She understood why, but felt I could have handled it better. Update. Many have made comments regarding my ex-fiancée's sister's PM comment. I honestly always felt her comment was based on how I handled things with her parents. After reading your comments, I now see she may have meant how I handled it with my ex as well. During my long drive and days after, I felt really cowardly. Felt like I was running from my ex by not confronting her with the truth. I honestly just didn't want to deal with it, felt it would do no good, and really did just want to get away. Your comments now make me feel good about what I did. I plan to contact her parents soon. Need to just find a phone and privacy. Not sure what to say exactly. Regarding the texts between X and AP, I had 12 pics of the text string, so a lot. Also a few pics not sexual but incriminating. There was no doubt they had slept together. The comments he made that aggravated me pertain to him justifying cheating. Everyone I know, men and women, have at some point had someone on the side. Guaranteed your BF has cheated or will. All guys do it. We are not programmed to be monogamous. My marriage is better because I don't have to put everything on my wife. The comments my ex made that were upsetting. I enjoyed our time the other day, I just need to get more comfortable, it just takes a couple times. I am just nervous. Not being with you. It's great. Just do not want him to find out. Ever. I'm pretty sure he cheated on me before. For the record, I never cheated on her. I never contacted the AP's wife. Both letters and screenshots were sent to FedEx. Tracking shows they delivered. That's all I have. Part of me wants to contact her, part of me thinks with what I sent there's no way he can weasel out of this unless she's in complete denial, in which case it's pointless. I talked to a few mutual friends. They brought her up. All I gather is she's not doing well, whatever that means. I really do not want to get into discussions about her, so I changed the subject. I live in a really cool apartment complex. A lot of people my age, met a bunch. Also have a lot of friends from work. Social life is pretty good. Update 2. Just following up on my previous posts. As I wrote earlier, based on most everyone's advice, I reached out to my ex's parents. I spoke only to my father-in-law. Good conversation. I took the apology approach. What I mean is, I told him I was sorry to have sent him the pics of messages, etc. I just said I respected them and needed them to understand exactly why I made my decision. He brushed all of that aside and was more curious about how I was doing, my new job, etc. Gave me a lot of words of encouragement, etc. We did not discuss my ex. He did not volunteer anything, and I did not ask. I did end up talking to a friend from where I used to live. Sounds like my ex moved back home and quit her job. Also, ashamed to admit, did a little Facebook stalking AP's wife. Thinking she received what I sent. Based on her Facebook posts around the time I sent the pics, there were a lot of motivational memes with a lot of supporting comments which lead me to believe she's leaving him. Can't be certain, but not a lot of this type of posts prior. Really enjoying my new job and making new friends every week. Not ready to date, but feeling good about meeting someone when the time is right. Anyway, nothing very exciting. Update 3. Hi everyone. Had a lot of questions regarding how I was able to manage the breakup with my ex. I appreciate everyone's thoughts and support. Not the greatest writer. Keep my post history up for background. Please understand that I discovered her cheating well before I left. No question those days right after discovery were, and still are, a blur. I couldn't eat, couldn't concentrate at work, couldn't sleep. Could barely function. Trust me, I really struggled with not confronting her. I guess what was pivotal was an evening when she was very late coming home. Of course, pretty certain she was with him. Observing her just go on like any other day, being nice, asking about me, etc., and knowing the whole time it's a sham was just a slap in the face. I do not know how to describe it, but she went from my one and only to not if she were the last woman on earth. Obviously I was not myself, and I guess she could sense that. There were a few times where she was especially affectionate and very concerned, i.e. you okay, something wrong, etc. Very hard to fake being okay when clearly not. Adding to my disdain, she was perfectly okay with no sex. Of course, I did not initiate. Neither did she, thank God. That also helped solidify my decision. During the actual breakup. Very nerve-wracking. The cop was very helpful. Gave him enough of my story to garner some sympathy. At least it felt that way. He coached me to say very little, and he ensured me he would move things along. Again, I was pretty much done at this point. Just wanted to get it over with more than anything. The officer was extremely sympathetic to her and kind, but assertive. I'm sure he dealt with worse. No doubt, he knew what he was doing. I spent the bulk of the time on the balcony pretending to play with my phone back turned. The cop was talking to her the whole time I could barely hear. Honestly, I was not seeking revenge. I thought long and hard about this and read a lot on Reddit to understand what talking to her would accomplish nothing. As far as sending the texts to her parents, I think a lot of them were not going to be pulled through the mud or scapegoated by leaving. This guy was scum. The things he texted were horrible. His wife needed to see them and make her own decisions. I feel for her. Whether X is an emotional disaster or doesn't care or somewhere in between, either way it hurts and I can do nothing about it. Anyway, thanks again.